Good evening, everyone, and welcome. Welcome, board members. Welcome, task force members. This is a special meeting we've called to have a presentation on the 2007 Bond Task Force. And Mrs. Carpenter, would you please call the roll for the record?
Ms. Ashley? Mr. Churchman?
Here.
Dr. Drummond?
Here.
Mr. Gilmore?
Here.
Mr. Parker?
Here.
Mr. Poland?
Here.
Mrs. Wilhelm?
Here.
We have a quorum, and I just wanted to take a moment here at the front end of this meeting to say welcome to all the 2007 Bond Task Force members. We know that there are many of you here who will not be presenting, and there's some who will be presenting, and we welcome you tonight. We want to thank you for all the many hours of work that you've put into this report, which we've already received preliminary information and read through, and now we received a very nice summary here this evening, and we are looking forward to your presentation. Board members, I wanted to just take a moment to go through a process tonight. You have the agenda in front of you, and we're going to hear from a number of presenters in different areas of their work, and we're going to hold our questions, if you will, until after all the presentations are done. So if you find something that's particularly of interest, please write yourself a note, because at the end of all the presentations, we will have a time for us to have facilitated discussion and question time. And after we're done asking our questions of task force members, we're going to spend some time talking amongst ourselves about our perception of the report, our comments, what our potential next steps might be. We'll hear some comments from Dr. All as well. And so we've got a big night in front of us. So with that, I'm going to turn it over to Kathleen Harnish-Doucet, who's going to facilitate the presentation. Kathleen, welcome.
Great.
And the floor is yours.
Good. Thank you very much, Mr. Gilmore. As one of the facilitators of the Bond 2000 Task Force, I know it's just a pleasure to be here. We've worked hard, and you're going to hear some about the time we've spent as well as some of the data. As you heard, there were 85 members to the task force, a number of who are here that are here this evening, and I thought it would just be great if you all wouldn't mind, those of you that served on the task force, if you would stand, just so we get some idea of who's here and maybe recognize you as well. We have 11 of those task force members that have volunteered this evening to be the presenters, so that's who you'll be hearing from. The presentation that they'll be giving tonight is in your notebook. At first you have the executive summary, and then right behind that is the PowerPoint presentation, followed by a number of tabs that some presenters will be referring to throughout the presentation, as well as some additional data. So with that, I think we're ready to start, and Bernie Darter, I'll turn it over to you.
Thank you, Kathleen. Good evening. My name is Bernie Darter. I'm a mother of 3 children, all who graduated from Olathe South High School. Our youngest just graduated last May, and we just dropped him off to college last weekend. But we still have 2 grandchildren at Olathe South High School. I'm also an associate pastor at an area church. Thank you, Board of Education, for allowing us the opportunity to present this information to you tonight. The purpose of our task force was to gain an understanding of our current reality in our district pertaining to student learning, district growth, existing facilities and technologies, and to address these needs by finding workable solutions and presenting these findings to our Board of Education tonight. This Bond Task Force, commissioned by our Board of Education in March of this year, began meetings in April, and we continue to do our work through August. We met for over 134 hours, not counting school visits, meetings with principals, multiple focus groups, and work done by district staff to compile the data. We had every stakeholder group represented that we could identify: parents, site council representatives, community at large, school administrators, certified and classified staff, planning experts, Olathe and Lenexa city planners, alternate education program representatives, to name a few. Our task force divided into 3 subcommittees to do more in-depth work. We had a facility implications for academic excellence team, a growth and existing facilities team, and technology team. Each subcommittee used the district's decision-making process. We set criteria, and we defined 13 guiding principles, and these were very important to our task force. I believe you'll find those listed under tab 3 of your binder. We gathered and analyzed multiple stakeholders' inputs, reviewed the relevant research findings, and had discussions. And after many more discussions, we evaluated all of the alternatives and we prioritized the findings. All of the bond task force meetings were open to the public and the media, and each meeting schedule was posted on the district website and also by area media. The Olathe School District's vision is students prepared for their future. And we felt our bond task force vision could be best described as the district prepared for its future. We identified key factors affecting the district's future, and I want to go through those with you. One key factor was accelerated learning. Students are facing increased local and global standards, and they need to have access to opportunities for advanced and accelerated coursework. We have growth as a key factor. Enrollment growth will be continuous. The available land, school sites are becoming more scarce as the district grows. We're looking at the definition of functionality. The demands on school facilities must change with new federal and state education laws and community needs and expectations. A key factor of technology. Increasingly, technology has a greater impact and influence in how our students learn. And the data must be available to support that learning. For example, the Read 180 program is a technology-based reading program provided through the use of technology, and the student data from that program is analyzed using technology. And finally, another key factor being the aging infrastructure. Schools and support buildings need an accelerated schedule of maintenance to protect our investment. In just a few minutes, other team members will be presenting our bond task force findings. First, allow me to review with you the critical data that led us to those findings. One of the key critical data pieces, growth. Growing by approximately 2 elementary schools a year, existing schools cannot handle this growth. For example, 4 of the 31 elementary schools have capacity for enrollment growth beyond the 5 years projection, or have a capacity limitation for enrollment. Aging facilities, more than 50% of the schools are 20 years or older and need improvements to be functional for today's students. Some older schools are nearing or at capacity, but cannot be enlarged due to structural constraints. New schools cannot be built because there's no more land in those established neighborhoods. Another piece of critical data, the academic excellence. Parents are requesting accelerated opportunities for their children, beyond those who qualify for state-funded gifted programs. Students in grades 6 and 9th in comparison districts who are already configured as 6th to 8th grade and 9th to 12th grade have greater access to enrichment and accelerated courses. We did examine the data of the numbers of the 2004, 2005 advanced placement scholars, and there were 156 in Blue Valley, 132 in Shawnee Mission, and 23 in Olathe. Moving 6th to junior high and 9th to high school is the most cost-effective long-term method for offering enrichment and acceleration opportunities. In informed surveys and focus groups, 100% of the schools represented, fewer than 50% of the parents agreed that acceleration could be accomplished without moving grades 6 and 9th. Among principals and teacher leaders, 90% recommended moving grade 6 to junior high and grade 9 to high school to provide greater enrichment and acceleration opportunities. Nationally, grades 6 to 8 is the most common grade configuration for adolescents, which means national curriculum and instructional resources are designed to fit this configuration. Another piece of key data is the technology. The current technology plan for the district, which was developed by community partners, staff, industry experts, was approved by the board and filed with the state of Kansas in August 2005. This plan was further validated during the bond task force process to provide equitable access of technology across the district for all students. At this time, I would like to introduce another bond task force member, Flint Oswald.
Thank you, Ms. Darter. Welcome, Mr. Oswald.
Hello, my name is Flint Oswald. I have been an Olathe resident for 16 years. I have 2 children currently attending schools in the district. I have a 8th grade son at Pioneer Trail and a 6th grade daughter at Heatherstone Elementary. I'm also the PTO president at Heatherstone, and I have served in both schools in their various capacities. I'd like to start by thanking you for all being here. I know you've had many extra meetings recently. We just realized, we appreciate the time and effort you've been giving us. I guess we're going to show you that appreciation by giving you more work to do, but so be it. I think we all realize how important these next few months can be for the future of our district. My role here this evening is to present to you our first 2 findings, and we will start, not surprisingly, with the growth of the district. The first finding is we need to build new schools and facilities to accommodate our enrollment growth. This would include up to 3 elementary schools, 1 junior high school, and the 5th high school. There's also a need for a technology support center and at least 1 more early childhood facility. The growth projections in the early childhood area, I'm sure you've heard, are even double the overall growth of the district, so that's a need that's going to have to be addressed in the future. For clarification, we understand the time frame for some of these projects could span the duration of the bond. Everything can't be done at once. You will have to coordinate the timing of your issuances with the growth in certain sectors. And finally, we do recognize that boundary and feeder pattern issues, boundary and feeder patterns will be affected as new schools are built. While never popular, they sometimes are a necessary factor. Additionally, the district should make efforts to acquire future school sites while land is available. This could include up to 6 elementary sites and the site for the vocational education facility. We recommend working closely with Chris and his staff in this realm to identify potential prime locations in the early stages of development. Our second finding is, as stated before, we should change our current configuration and move the 9th grade to the high school setting and the 6th grade to the junior high setting. If I lose eye contact times, I apologize. I have a tendency to ramble off on tangents, so I've tried to write everything down so I don't leave anything out. I will address the 9th grade aspects first. The benefits are numerous. Just to touch on a few, students would have access to accelerated math and science courses, access to advanced levels of international languages, access to college preparation activities, access. We must address this to compete with our neighboring benchmark districts. Bernie gave you those AP Scholar numbers. I think they bear repeating. Blue Valley 156, Shawnee Mission 132, Olathe 23. I think in the meetings we were all stunned by those numbers. The disparity, there's a lot of reasons, obviously, and we have this link. I've asked Allison to add this link, and I think this gives us an idea of potentially part of the issue. This is the comparison of the core subjects that are available with 9th grade in the junior high, which we have, and then on the right, you'll see if 9th grade is in the high school, such as at Blue Valley and Shawnee Mission. It's just, the columns speak for themselves. There's just way more opportunities for the students to expand their coursework and achieve greater numbers. Thank you. Even in the advanced classes we do offer, it's difficult for all the kids to participate. In 8th grade, we've been averaging about 30% participation in accelerated coursework in math and science. But when we get to the 9th grade levels, those numbers drop dramatically. There's a number of reasons why, but there are many obstacles for them to overcome when they try. A few examples would be, the travel time to and from the high school and the resulting lost class time, scheduling limitations, being forced to make very difficult decisions between core classes and electives. Just a few examples, do I take an accelerated math class or debate? Accelerated science or play in the orchestra? Do I stay on this accelerated math track I'm on, or do I be a member of the drill team in my 9th grade school? Choices that they have to make that make their decision a lot harder. We tell our kids to challenge themselves, strive to be their best, prepare for their future, but then they hit this glass ceiling and they can't break through. It's leaving them at a severe academic disadvantage with the neighboring districts, and that ceiling would be removed if they were in the high school setting. Some of the benefits for moving 6th graders into the junior high setting. The district would have access to a broader selection of curriculum and instructional materials by aligning with the more common configuration. Fine arts students would have twice the amount of weekly instruction time. More students could take part in physical education or expanded amount of time in physical education. Most importantly, all students would have a greater opportunity to have their needs addressed. The accelerated students would have more options readily available in the junior high setting, and the challenged learners of the junior high setting is much more conducive to meeting the needs of the challenged learners. They could have a scheduled time for their resource needs or Read 180 classes as mentioned. And for these reasons, it would not be unrealistic to expect a modest increase in assessment scores. We've held several focus groups with parents, and many concerns have been identified. Jim McMullen and Larry Katzev, two of our junior high school principals with hands-on experience, will speak later to address those concerns, so I'm not going to deal with their specifics. I would, however, like to speak briefly from an overview standpoint. It is human nature to be resistant to change. It's natural to worry about our kids. I've been a father for 13 years, and I think I've worried for 13 years. Are they healthy? Are they safe? Am I raising them properly? Are they being educated? Are they fit in socially? When we look at making a fundamental change like this, these valid concerns and emotions raise up, and human nature says, no, if it's not broken, don't fix it. But when you see the data and you become informed on these issues, you realize that our shortcomings can and must be addressed. We talked at length in our meetings about the need to educate the public. And we can't just put this bond on the ballot and say, here's what we want, please vote for it. We must tell them, here's what we need, and here is why. An informed parent is better able to wade through the emotions of the issue, recognize the needs, and the opportunity to address them. Secondly, I think it is important to acknowledge what a fantastic resource we have in our district staff. As a parent, we send our kids to school, we meet their teacher, we meet their principal, we have that contact, but we just assume, hope the staff is capable and they design our educational programs wisely. I've been so grateful to have been on this task force because I've gotten to know several of these members of the staff. I'm not going to mention them individually because I'll forget somebody. But I've been so impressed with their dedication, their knowledge, their understanding of these issues, and their sincerity. They truly care about the education of our kids. I have the utmost confidence that should we go down this road, they will do everything necessary to ensure a smooth transition and a positive outcome. I can envision the majority of parents and teachers in the not-too-distant future saying, why didn't we do this sooner? So bottom line, educate parents and the facts will outweigh the emotions, and trust the staff we have to properly implement these changes. Off my soapbox. Back to the bond perspective, there are facility implications. To accommodate the move, we will need to either build additions to the 4 existing high schools or build a 6th high school. I believe the consensus of the task force was the additions were the better option for several reasons, ranging from cost, timing, less of an issue with the existing feeder patterns, et cetera. That's obviously going to be your decision. there would be minimal facility impacts on the junior high schools. It's important here to clarify that, while the configuration change is being espoused for academic enhancement purposes, that there are significant benefits for growth and facility issues at the elementary sites. If we do not move these grades up, the additions at the elementaries, we will have to do several additions at elementary sites. We've left kind of out, when we started, we had different options. We had the cost and effects of building additions on the 4 high schools, and what elementary schools are going to have to be expanded to handle growth. We've kind of left that off here because assuming we're moving the grades up, a lot of that is resolved. Okay? But I just want to make sure you understand, it's not like it's going to cost X to move these grades up and going to cost nothing if we don't. Because if we don't move these grades up, we're going to spend almost as much money at making additions on the elementary schools as we are on the 4 additions on the high schools. Finally, we looked at many possible solutions. This is what we came up with. We looked at so many options, I mean, your head would swim. But this was the option that best aligned with our criteria. It's a long-term solution, it's the most cost-effective solution, and it offered the most full breadth of benefits to our students. Just in closing, I'd like to say I was not able to attend the convocation a couple weeks ago, but I did catch some of it on TV. I was watching Dr. All's comments about, the theme of that meeting was Dare to Dream, and it struck me that that's what we as a task force has done. We have dared to dream to take this opportunity to improve our district in the future. So I think what we are asking you to do is not only to share that dream, but to use your courage and wisdom to make that dream become a reality. Thank you. I would like to now introduce our next presenter, Cindy Von Felt.
Thank you, Mr. Oswald. Well presented.
Better not read Flint's comments. Good evening. My name is Cindy Von Felt, and I have 2 really awesome girls at Sunnyside Elementary. One's in 6th grade, and one is in 3rd grade. I have served our school community over the last few years. We have a booster club, and I've been the booster club president for the last couple of years. And I'm also a Girl Scout leader, so I have intimate knowledge with 15 really awesome 6th grade girls and their maturity levels. So I feel like I might be somewhat of an expert to help add to this conversation. In my professional life, I work for an educational foundation, and I facilitate the grants to teachers for innovative classroom projects for another district. As a member of the Bond Task Force, I focused on growth in existing facilities. As a parent at Sunnyside for the last 6 years, I know growth. I know art on a cart. I know PE in the cafeteria. I know reading specialists working with students in sometimes noisy hallways. And this week, I know staff working with a special needs child in an alcove, this little area that really is an entrance to a classroom and an exit to the building, but provided the space they needed to be able to give this child some attention. Both Bernie and Flint have discussed our findings regarding the need for new schools to accommodate the growing population of the district. I'm here to shed some light on our findings with regards to the existing facilities. Our committee members traveled throughout this district, visiting schools of varying ages. We found that schools can be overcrowded when their enrollment reaches 300, which is a surprise to me, reaching almost 800. We've learned that creating digital classrooms takes more money than just putting the equipment into the classroom and running some wires. And we've learned that simply putting doors on classroom doesn't make a facility equitable with a facility that does have doors on classrooms. Space is an issue. The Bond Task Force found that 27 schools need retrofitting and additional space for existing programs and services. These are schools that need retrofitting for existing programs, not for new programs and not for new services. We also found that 12 schools need additional space to accommodate enrollment growth, and these are schools that cannot be relieved with construction of additional schools. They're in areas that are, I guess, landlocked. There's no more room to grow. In our travels and through our research, we found that additions to some schools just aren't feasible because of the age of the structure and the significant cost of complying with current building codes. I've sat through more meetings and talked about more construction stuff than I ever thought I would. And that's a real valid point, is when you start changing an existing school that was built under building codes from 20 years ago, I'm not a construction person, and wow, there's all sorts of building codes you have to comply with that makes the project very expensive. We also found that some older school sites are less than half the size of the newer sites, meaning that building additions would cover existing parking or playground space or both. Which should we give up? However, we did find that most of the needs for space at the elementary level can be resolved if we move the 6th grade up to the junior highs. As we examined the needs for the district, we looked for solutions. In fact, we encouraged ourselves to think creatively, to look outside the box for new ways to solve old concerns. Although it's easy to become fixated on funding the new growth of the district because we've got to fund the growth, we found that our older schools are overcrowded with a serious lack of functional space. Specifically, we looked at Central and Ridgeview Elementaries because they need immediate attention. The Bond Task Force strongly recommends that the district investigate innovative solutions to provide appropriate and functional space for students at these two schools. This is a problem that just can't wait. As the list of needs at existing schools grew, one problem sounded like, this is going to be an easy one to solve. 11 elementary schools don't have classroom doors, and that was something that came up on our list as we surveyed elementary principals. The solution seems simple and pretty inexpensive, just put on some doors. But a closer look into those buildings revealed that doors on classrooms were just one symptom of a much bigger problem. During a presentation by the district construction manager, we found that the walls on those classrooms are deemed temporary, that the lights in those classrooms, like multiple classrooms, work on one switch. So if they need a little darkness in one room, you get darkness in the next room, no matter what you're doing. And the heating and the cooling systems depend on open doorways rather than closed, and that the classrooms on these older buildings are much smaller than the classrooms we're deeming as necessary in our new buildings. And one of the other things that we looked at in this idea that we could provide more safety if we start working on our older buildings is in a lot of cases the entry to the building is not necessarily secure. In our newest grade school, Madison Place, you're specifically building it so visitors to the school have to pass through the office. But in many of the old schools, there's not that safeguard for our children. So our quest to put doors on classrooms has now become a comprehensive strategy for elementary schools. The Bond Task Force strongly recommends that the district begin addressing the issues of equity and functionality in older elementary schools by including one or more comprehensive renovations at a cost of about $5 million per school in each upcoming bond issue until all the older elementary schools have been addressed. As an Olathe parent, an active school district volunteer now, and a tax-paying, vote-casting citizen, the easy answer for me is to fund the growth. But the easy answer isn't always the right answer, or in this case, the complete answer. I encourage you to commit to developing a long-range plan to keep our older schools refurbished and to provide appropriate, equitable facilities and spaces for our students' learning. Thank you for your time. I'd like to introduce Tom Demo.
Thank you, Ms. Von Felt. Well said.
Thank you, Cindy. Good evening. My name is Tom Demo. I'm a technology partner with the district and a former educator. We came to a consensus on the Bond Task Force that the district should continue to fund the technology plan. The plan provides for appropriate technology to support student learning and to support the data analysis used to support that student learning. As you've heard about the growth of the district, we need to continue to fund the technology growth in the district and with the new construction that's going on. We also need to align devices in the schools to teaching and learning strategies. One of the things we saw was the pupil response system, or the clicker system, and that all the elementary schools should have that technology and access to that technology. Also, low-cost and emerging technologies to provide for more technology access, technologies such as wireless technology. Also, improving the display of digital information in all remaining teaching and learning spaces. Part of that is the digital classroom project that the board has funded that replaces the TV carts with overhead DLP projectors in the classrooms. Increasing and managing also the network access for on-demand anytime learning. Wireless is a strategy that they've used in some of the schools to where when the state board testing came in, they could move the students to the library so they didn't have to schedule the lab, or they could really put the learning and the activity where it made the most sense. Also, an adequate technology facility and solid infrastructure. And one of the things we really investigated was, you're one of the largest businesses in the metropolitan area as well. And so improving the data center for growth and protecting the assets that you've invested in already should be one of the issues addressed. So those were the findings that we had with technology. And now I'd like to introduce Mike McVeigh.
Thank you, Mr. Demo.
Good evening, President Gilmore and board members. Thanks for letting the community come and have input into your decisions. I am a parent. My daughter's Tierney. She's a senior at Olathe Northwest. My son is Drake. He's graduated from Olathe North, and he's at KU now. Probably home studying right now. We've had a range of experiences in the school district, none of them bad, but facility-wise, we started at Meadow Lane, which I think was built by the settlers. Great place to get an education, but an older building. And then the kids opened Cedar Creek when it was brand new. So they had that experience. Drake went to Olathe North, and I don't know, the same folks built it that built Meadow Lane, I guess. And then Tierney has opened Olathe Northwest and had a whole different facility to go to school in. All their experiences have been good, and if I didn't feel that way, I wouldn't be here. But it has been my background with the school districts as far as my kids. I'm the past president of the Olathe Public Schools Foundation, so I have that background with the district and have been involved with that for years. I'm also president of the Olathe Santa Fe Trail Rotary Club now, and know a few Rotarians in the room. I'm a patron in the Lenexa portion of the district, which makes me different than most of your patrons, but also gives me a perspective that not all of them have, and probably, maybe none of you have. But it's been interesting, and I've been happy to be involved because I think that the district needs that perspective as well as many others. My day job when I'm not doing these other activities is as a business lawyer. I think that someone didn't like me because of that, because I got the job of talking about dollars and cents. Fiscal prudence is my first topic. I was on the Growth and Existing Facilities Committee. We obviously generated lots of dollar signs. And I have, well, to go over a little bit, we had 3 committees. Mine was that particular committee. There were 2 others. I don't feel like I have near the depth of knowledge in the 2 other committees that I have in mine. Mine was demographics, school needs, and I can tell you things about class sizes in elementary schools and each grade going through and where the growth is going to come from, and 1.2 kids per household, and things that I really didn't want to know but was necessary to get comfortable with the numbers. And I can tell you for my committee is that we did get comfortable with the numbers. We weren't out to just create schools where none were needed. We went back time and again to look at the numbers to make sure they were needed and that we didn't have too many, and that if the 6th graders were moving out, what did that do to the numbers? And we really did delve into them. And I can only ask you to trust the other committee members in their committees that they did the same thing. That doesn't mean that I expect you to say, Mike thought these were the things to do and do them, but you do have resources of me and my other committee members and the staff that helped us get to this point, and I think they'll help you get to the same point. Now, you have a little different role. We didn't have a budget, and that's kind of where I'm going with this. We took the numbers and we had a democratic process, and it's not perfect, but we had some crazy charts, and we selected out priority items that needed to be done immediately. For example, a new grade school so the kids wouldn't have to learn in a field. You know, that's pretty high priority, and we would have a vote of like 62 to 1 or something, 62, 1 and 0. We had other items that were long-term needs, And some people rank them, and you'll see in some charts later, there was none of these that are on the list that nobody thought was something that should be addressed at a certain time. It was a question about whether it was an immediate need or a long-term need. There's nothing on the list that our task force said, we don't need that. Because if we didn't need it, we didn't put it on the list. And it was a democratic process. There's one vote about we don't need grade schools. Somebody said that. I don't know who it was. It wasn't me. But, you know, it's a democracy, and there's potentially 90 available votes, and there generally a consensus was developed. And you'll see a chart where I listed the immediate needs, and I listed the long-term needs, and there's not a third category. The division between the two was pretty arbitrary by me. If I didn't think there was a pretty strong consensus that it was an immediate need, it went on the second list. Now, that means sometimes that the vote was split 50-50, it was rough in there somewhere. But if I didn't think there was a general consensus that it was an immediate need, it doesn't go on that list. And let's walk through a little bit of those. The first number is a very simple slide. And it'll expose you, and I know you've seen these, it'll expose you to what the big numbers are. And this is if everything that the task force saw as a capital need were all funded, that's what the number would look like. That assumes that the 9th graders move and the 6th graders move. Kindergartners aren't involved in that because there's no capital need on any decision related to them. The duplication that you need to understand is that, explain this somewhat simply. You'll see, well, let's go to the next summary chart. And this is a little bit out of order in your printed material, so if you would look at the chart that has green and yellow on the same chart on one page, it just basically has a one-line entry. Looks like that one on your monitor if you can't figure out which one that is. We had a decision about moving 9th grade to high school, and you'll see the top item in the green chart of immediate needs is $60 million for 4 additions to high schools to accommodate that additional grade at each high school. We also have an item under staged solution needs. You'll see $79,800,000, and that is to fund an alternative. And because there was a significant support also for that decision, it's on here. If you're building 4 additions to accommodate the freshmen in high school, you don't need what's funded in the yellow, which is a 6th high school, to accommodate a reshuffling of kids among the district to accommodate them all in high school. If you opt for a 6th high school to keep the school sizes down, you can delete the $60 million in the green at the top and keep the 79.8. So below I have a range of roughly $350 to $370 million, but there's also that swing of 60 that comes in and out somewhere, and you just need to appreciate how those numbers work. So the numbers are still gigantic, and I'm not here just to tell you that they're not, but I want you to understand where they came from, what they apply to. Just to run down the immediate needs chart, address moving 9th grade to high school, $60 million is for those 4 additions to 4 high schools. To address growth is basically new schools and land. Address need for additional land, that would be for future schools where you don't need a school in the land immediately. Technology needs is obvious, and update the aging facilities is a whole range of facility needs for older facilities. And you'll see similar categories down below. There might be, for example, an item in updating aging facilities that the group as a whole thought was a longer-term need than an immediate need. And that's why it's in the yellow portion of the chart. And that's really the only difference. I mean, the number's not definite. I expect you guys to move those in between, which you think are priorities and which our group thought were priorities. Next slide. The next slide is several slides, and those are drilling down into yet more detail. If you look at, to explain a little more how our voting worked, if you look on the right, you'll see under the category Statistics on Bond Task Force Analysis of Immediate Need. You see the top one says Immediate 49, Stage Solution 2. And that's the way our democracy worked, for better or worse. Those are generally how we voted. Because it was 49-2, I put it on the immediate need list, and thus you see it in the green chart here. And you go through and you can see in more detail what address growth is. We're building the 9th high school. We're building the 34th, 35th elementary schools. We're preparing to build high school number 5 in West Olathe. We're building a $5 million technology support center. Adding on to CT, California Trail, and we're adding on to 4 elementary schools. Despite my work, I don't know what all those acronyms mean. I think they're all schools. I haven't figured all of them out. And you'll see that if you look on the right again, the vote varies. 58 thought high school 5 preliminary design was immediate, 5 thought it was a longer term, and 1 thought it was unnecessary. And that's the way our group worked. And we all got a vote, and not every vote I agree with, not every priority of mine is a priority on this list, but it is what it is. If you continue down on the green column, you'll see the needs for additional land, 3 elementary school sites to buy there, technology needs, a bunch of new construction, network infrastructure, wireless connectivity. You don't need me to read each of them, but it's more of how we got to it than what I need to tell you each number is. Update aging facilities, you can see a total there of $25,700,000, and those are things like replacing windows, HVAC systems, roof systems, asphalt and concrete, flooring, ceilings. I mean, that's going back to schools between maybe 20 to 50 years old and really giving them a big chunk of rehab at this point. And the only reason you have to do that in 2006 is because it wasn't done in 2003 and 2000 and 97 and 94. I mean, if you build up an accumulation of deferred maintenance, at some point you got to decide when are we going to get caught up. And that's what those items are about. And after going through the task force process, we decided that those were immediate needs. This was the time to get those caught up. The next slide, the next page, we move to stage solution needs. And you'll see, for example, the first one is incremental increase for 6th high school and land. And that arose from a discussion over how big should high schools be. Do we want to take high schools of, say, 1,200 to 1,400 kids and add another class of 300 to 400 to it and make them 1,600 to 1,900? Or do we want to divide the district into 6 schools and keep them closer to 1,200 to 1,400 with 4 grades spread among them? And you'll see the vote under the statistics is an immediate, 20 people thought that was an immediate need. You can see they felt strongly about that issue, and it was an immediate need to them, while 12 thought it was a stage solution and 3 not a priority for us. And that's how the items got on the yellow list, because there was more of a divided task force on how immediate that need was. And then you'll see different items that weren't in the green immediate columns, like support building a childhood center, purchasing land through the build out of the district generally is what address need for land is. Needs for equity and functionality is more facilities additions, for example, elementary doors on libraries, kindergarten room additions, exterior improvements on Fairview, different needs of older facilities. And there was obviously a fair interest in using a different mechanism other than paying for this immediately with the bond issue may be capital outlay budget or some other use of funds in the longer term to solve some of those problems and meet those needs. The last page and the last slide is updated aging facilities. As you can see, some things like lockers at California Trail and interior doors. Those got, in some people's view, those were a stage solution need and not an immediate need. And then additions to junior highs is the last item there. So that's how you start with a number that kind of knocks you out like 350 million, and you see how we got to that number, which is, you know, the inverse of the way we did it. We started with all kinds of tiny numbers saying, geez, has anybody thought about what this adds up to? And then as we got to the end, we started figuring out it was a lot of money. It would have been more if we'd put some items we didn't feel so strongly about on our list, but that's the items that made it on the list, and that's the recommendation and the version of prioritization that we were able to provide you with. My other topic is return on investment. I'm not sure that you, board members, need any education on what we're investing in. It's very clear to me that what we invest in primarily is along the lines of the mission of the school district, which is the kids. And you know that. Obviously, additionally, we invest in neighborhoods, and I think Olathe has some neighborhoods that need investments, and I think as a community partner, the school district needs to invest in neighborhoods, in the overall community of which Olathe is a little quadrant of now. Obviously, we benefit by investment in the school district. The three capital areas that we included, or three capital areas available, are all areas we included, which are the bond funding, which obviously we're the bond task force, and that's where we started. Most of us started having no idea what capital outlay budget was. Now we all know. See there, we all know. Believe it or not, things we never wanted to know too bad. We know. And operating funds, and though, you know, that's a limited source, potentially some of these things could be paid for out of operating funds. And I guess a way to look at it is more of the yellow stuff we thought, or a group of us thought, was more capital outlay, operating fund expense. You may prioritize them different. That's sort of how we looked at it. The last thing I wanted to tell you, and this is not a task force position, I want to tell you to keep the children in mind when you make your decisions, and to not let historical restrictions and political expediency guide your decisions, but keep the children in mind, and I'm sure you'll come to a great decision for our community. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. McVeigh.
I'm sorry. I forgot my introduction. I get to introduce Pam Morgan, who is an outstanding educator. She's known as the Jewel of Olathe. She's the first presenter on the topic of frequently asked questions.
Thank you. As Mike said, my name is Pam Morgan. I'm a self-employed accountant here in Olathe. I have 2 children. My son Tyler is a 7th grader at Prairie Trail, and my daughter Michaela is a 6th grader at Fairview. This is my 7th year serving on the PTO at Fairview. I've served in the capacity of president, vice president of fundraising, and I've also served as treasurer. This year I'm serving again as treasurer. I'm also in my 5th year on the Fairview Site Council, and I also participated on the Ravenwood Boundary Committee. So I do have some understanding of what's going on in the district. My topic today is, are we going to continue to grow in the Olathe School District? The answer, obviously, is yes, absolutely. Growth has been continuous for over 40 years in the Olathe School District and will continue well into the future. Full build-out is not expected in the Olathe School District until the year 2035. Even if people were to stop moving into the district today, our enrollment would continue to grow as our kindergarten classes are several hundred students larger than our senior classes. We currently only have we have 3 grades whose enrollment are greater than 2,000 students. Not only, we have 3 grades. Kindergarten, first, and third. In contrast, we only have 1 grade with enrollment below 1,800 students, which just happens to be our class of graduating seniors. The difference between our biggest grade, first grade, and our smallest grade, 12th grade, is 343 students. 343 students can fill up an entire elementary school. The enrollment at Fairview as of yesterday was 331 students. Our existing schools do not have enough room for much additional growth. Currently, we only have 4 elementary schools that have capacity for additional growth beyond what's already expected. Those 4 schools are Briarwood, Tomahawk, Black Bob, and Green Springs. Out of our 8 junior highs, only 2 have capacity for growth beyond what's already expected. Indian Trail could relieve crowding at Chisholm Trail, and Santa Fe Trail could provide some enrollment relief for Oregon Trail or Prairie Trail, but not enough to eliminate the need for a 9th junior high. It is also necessary to purchase additional land sites for future schools well in advance. Appropriate land sites to build on become more and more difficult to find as the district continues to develop. To continue cramming more students into the existing schools creates unfair challenges for both students and educators. As I stated earlier, my daughter currently attends Fairview Elementary School, and my son just recently moved on from Fairview. Fairview was well over capacity prior to Ravenwood opening in the 2005-2006 school year. One of the results of the overcrowding is that there was not space for an art room. At Fairview, for many years, we had art on a cart. This made teaching art difficult as art projects were being done at students' desks, creating messes in their workspace. Some projects were just plain difficult to do, so teaching options were limited. My daughter said to me when I read her my speech, she said, "Yeah, we could never do clay projects when we had art on a cart." I'm sure the art teachers themselves could share many other challenges of art on a cart. At Fairview, special programming for students learning English and for students needing assistance with math and reading are in place. However, some of the benefits of this support are negated as a result of the limited space and cramped conditions. Extra help for students with reading, math, and other subjects were often done in the halls as there was no other space to do so. This was obviously very disruptive as people often walk through halls. Likewise, the results of services being provided in rooms originally intended as offices or storage areas, while better than nothing, fall unacceptably short of benefits that can be experienced in appropriate space and facilities. I know that the issues at Fairview, as well as other issues, are not uncommon at many other schools who are at or over capacity. If we want to provide a quality education and continue to be competitive with the surrounding districts, we need to have enough schools to keep class sizes down. We need to provide space for specials such as art, music, band, and we also need to provide appropriate spaces for special education, tutoring, and whatever services are necessary in the schools. In the movie Field of Dreams, the key phrase is, "If we build it, they will come." Here in the Olathe School District, they are coming, whether we build it or not. Thank you. I would now like to introduce Mary Mashek and Penny Eshelman. Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Morgan.
Good evening. I'm Mary Mashek, and I have a partner, my husband Rick, who we tag teamed on this bond task force. And fortunately, he was able to take care of the family needs while I was here doing the bond task force. So, but it was we were very honored to be able to have the opportunity to serve on this eye-opening adventure. Rick and I have been in the Olathe system for 26 and a half years. We have 3 children. Sarah is a graduate of Olathe North in 2002, and she just graduated from Drake University and is fully employed and almost off the payroll. And we have a son, Colin, who is a junior at Olathe North, and he's involved in the 21st Century program, specializing in sports medicine, and he's in the venture of taking AP courses, as Sarah did when she was at North. And then we have a 7th grader, Connor, who is now at Oregon Trail. And as a parent, I had the opportunity to serve as a room mother for 17 years. And so now I'm glad I don't have to do that piece. But we made a decision as a family when Sarah was going into 3rd grade to move her from private education into the Olathe school system. And the reason is because of the needed programs that were there and the reputation that Olathe had, and it was a decision that we have never regretted. And we appreciate the school and being proactive and looking ahead for the future. So now I'll let you meet Penny.
I'm Penny Eshelman, and I am a parent of 3 children that currently attend Olathe schools. My oldest attends Frontier Trail and is a 9th grader. My 2 younger attend Black Bob, and they are 5th and 3rd graders. I've lived in Olathe for 18 years, and I'm also an employee of the school district, and I'm a math teacher for SOAR, which is one of the alternative education programs that the district offers. I was asked to be on the Bond Task Force Subcommittee for Academic Excellence, and I decided to accept because all 3 of my children, fortunately or unfortunately, I haven't decided yet, have been identified in the QUEST program, and they do need academic stimulation that is beyond the regular classroom and beyond their grade level. So Mary is going to talk about 6th grade, and then I will take over from there.
Okay, the question that we have is, let me look at it real quick. Why do we need to move the 6th grade and the 9th grades up? I'm going to talk about 6th grade. Connor, who now is in 7th grade, because of his scores in 4th grade math, he was given the opportunity to take a pre-algebra exam to qualify him to take pre-algebra in 6th grade. So this decision was made at the end of 5th grade going into 6th grade. And we looked at it as a family that if he has the aptitude and the opportunity to move ahead, which is very necessary in today's world, then it was something that we felt that we were honored and pleased that it was offered to us. The inconvenience of all of this, out of the 6 children that I believe qualified at Rolling Ridge to take this pre-algebra course in 6th grade, only 3 took advantage of it. And the reason being is because it was very cumbersome. The program was a commitment for the student and for the parents because it was a preschool class. So these students met at 7:05 every morning and were dismissed around 8 o'clock every morning. And we had to transport them to the school where the program was being issued. And so the commitment was for the parents and the student to be willing to do this every day of their 6th grade year. And it would have had more children involved if there wasn't that cumbersome part where they had to actually physically move from the school. So that my student was able to take advantage of the accelerated learning that's available in the district. and the proactiveness that the district is looking forward to. So if he would have been actually in a junior high setting, 6th, 7th, and 8th, then the program would already be there. And because he did so well, in fact, all three of these young men from Rolling Ridge that took pre-algebra in 6th grade are now currently in 8th grade algebra. And they will be ahead 1 year compared to where my other two children were, who were also taking advanced math. So the physical limitations of having these programs available, and then also we talk about maturity level. How can a 6th grader move in to a junior high setting? We had a few teachers that work with 6th graders, and maybe at the beginning of 6th grade, the maturity level may be there, but we had several teachers said, but believe me, by Christmas time, they were ready to be in junior high. So we know that the issue of learning and the social part, that is the whole roundness that we see of our students. And we feel that the Olathe school system recognizes not only the academics, but what can we do for these kids socially so that they are able to be a valuable partner in the community as they become an adult.
I'm going to try to answer the question of why do we need to move the 9th graders to high school, and why can't we achieve the same thing without moving them? If someone would have asked me 5 years ago if the 9th grade should be moved to the high school, I probably would have said no. But after many hours thinking about it and gathering data, I've changed my mind. And also, my son, who's a 9th grader, is currently attending 3 hours at Olathe South. So that definitely has changed my mind. And I just want to tell you a little bit about what he has experienced. And he said, Mom, if you're going to quote me, make sure that you write it down. I tried to get him to come, but no. 2 of the classes that he's taking are French 3 and Advanced Algebra 2 Trig, and they had to be taken at South because unfortunately they're not able to offer those at Frontier. And the other class is biology, and he has to take that because of the hours that the other 2 are offered. So I approached Luke and I asked him, well, what are some advantages and disadvantages of being a freshman in a predominantly sophomore, junior, and senior building for 3 hours? And this is how he responded. I like being at the high school because I finally feel challenged. I am more immersed in the high school atmosphere, and I realize that grades count for my GPA, and I have more of a freshman mentality than if I was at the junior high level. And so these were advantages, and I think it's important to see that 9th graders see that they are freshmen in high school. Now, his disadvantages might seem small details, but to a 14 and a half, I was told earlier, these are things that he has to deal with every day by not being physically in the high school all day. Transportation. A bus picks him up at his junior high and transports him to his high school, and then at the end of the day, he gets back on the bus and goes back to the junior high. And that took a while, but thanks to the administrators at the junior high, we got it all worked out. But for a couple weeks, it was touch and go there. Lunch. He eats lunch 4 days a week at the high school and 1 day at the junior high. So he needs accounts at both places. And when he went, 1 day his ID worked at South. The other day it didn't. So they decided that they needed to set up an account for him. Also a student ID. He was accused of trying to use a junior high ID at South. Also, there's different class time schedules and block scheduling. So he has a list that he carries in his pocket every day, because I took it out of his pocket when I was doing laundry, that tells him what time the bus is to pick him up on certain days. Also, extracurricular activities at the junior high level. He is chosen to be on the 9th grade football team. And so transportation has to be arranged to get him back and forth. I willingly volunteered to pick him up on game days because that was something that needed to be done. And also he told me that he's kind of hesitant to sign up for some of the after-school activities or the extracurricular activities that would meet after school, but because he ends his day at South. And like I said, these are small details, but these are details that he has been dealing with for, I know, only 2.5 weeks. And luckily, his personality is such that he just kind of goes with the flow, and he knows that it'll all work out and that he has some good people looking out for him also. So I hope you as a board think about all the freshmen and the 6th graders and the opportunities that they could be experiencing if they were moved into the junior high or high school setting. I would like to introduce next Jim McMullen and Larry Katzeff.
Thank you, ladies.
Good evening. I'm Larry Katzeff, and I'm the principal at California Trail Junior High School. And this is my 30th year in education, my 20th year in Olathe. I served as an elementary counselor at Westview Elementary for 9 years, from 1987 to 1996. I joined the California Trail staff at its opening in '96 as an assistant principal and became their principal in 1999. And I also have raised 3 wonderful children. We're still raising them. There's 2 out of college of 2 Kansas schools, and Mr. Churchman, you know I'm from Missouri, but they went to Kansas schools. And there's one at KU that better be studying right now. And I've also had a privilege of really meeting a lot of wonderful people in our subcommittees, in our sub-subcommittees, and our sub-sub-subcommittees, and really met some great people in the community and in our school district. So I appreciate the relationships we've created. And I am with Mr. Jim McMullen, and he'll introduce himself in a few minutes. And I'm going to ask the question, or answer the question, what happens if 6th grade does not move to junior high school? The Academic Excellence Subcommittee explored and addressed other options for providing opportunities for 6th graders to take advanced instruction in math, science, and international languages before recommending the move for 6th grade to the junior high. These were found to be very costly, both financially and educationally. In order to offer more students accelerated instruction, employing content specialists as itinerants to serve all 31 elementary schools has been considered. The cost of salaries and benefits would be insurmountable. The cost of human resource allowing these itinerants travel time would also be costly. In addition, the availability of qualified math and science content specialists to serve 31 elementary schools alone would be quite limited. Such a solution would also lack the educational breadth that would be present in the junior high setting for 6th graders, where every student benefits from a team approach, where professional learning communities are built into the system, working to challenge and reach all students, not just the higher end. Space in the elementary schools does not exist to provide 6th graders with intensive advanced instruction in science and math. Students would lose out on the technology and science labs already provided in the junior highs. Other options limit the access of advanced choices for all students. It would create more inequity in providing accelerated opportunities. Which 6th graders would receive instructional opportunities in the elementary school setting? Which schools might have the edge on the ability to transport students? Right now, we have buses that transport a small number of 6th graders to the junior high for algebra classes. That is costly and limits the potential for more students to take advantage of advanced instruction. There is also lost instructional time to the 6th graders due to transporting time between the elementary and junior high sites. Reports from other school districts who have moved 6th graders to the junior high level show that in order to move students to the level of advanced math, science, and international language classes at the high school level, and to make our Olathe students competitive for college placement and scholarships, we must start early. Moving sixth graders up to the junior high level brings everyone up, increasing the likelihood of more students accessing these classes. Not moving sixth grade to junior highs would put them behind our neighboring school districts locally and behind nationally. If we do not move sixth graders to junior high, they will miss the chance of early access to daily physical education and music, our fine arts and performing arts classes, our curriculum/interest-based clubs that are provided in the junior high, including after-school programs such as Science Olympiad, art clubs, and math counts. Now, Mr. Jim McMullen is going to ask the question, what happens about ninth grade?
Good evening. Thank you, Larry. As Larry said, my name is Jim McMullen. I'm proud to serve as the principal at Frontier Trail Junior High. Earlier, Penny forgot to mention that our ninth grade football team did beat Aquinas last night in overtime. Real briefly about a little of my past, I'm an Olathe product. Grew up at 509 Oscar Road, attended Rolling Ridge, Oregon Trail, and Olathe North. I grew up in our current model, K6, 7, 9, 10, 12. I came to Olathe a year ago from the Shawnee Mission School District, where I served as a teacher, coach, and assistant principal. I look forward to a long, successful career as an educator in this community. Most importantly, I look forward to my 4-year-old daughter, Haley, becoming a Meadow Lane Mustang next year. They're going to love her test scores. And my 2-year-old son, Louie, when he gets there, they're going to love his energy. That being said, I would not make recommendations for students in this community that I did not feel were appropriate for my own children. The items discussed tonight will directly affect my children, and I'm very comfortable with the recommendations of this committee. In regards to leaving the ninth graders in the high school, as our Academic Excellence Committee worked through how to best serve our ninth graders, there were many options that were explored during those 134 hours we talked about earlier. My watch showed a few more than that, but we'll go with that. Other options we looked at included building a ninth grade center or hosting a ninth grade center. Some concerns with that were another transition for our students and our families. How many centers would we need for potentially 2,000 ninth graders, staffing, traveling, etc. We also looked at increasing the availability of these accelerated classes at the junior high level. And again, much like the complications that arise with sixth graders in the elementary school, travel time, enrollment, space, classrooms, and still having a separation from the junior high ninth graders to the high school students in courses such as art, technology, debate forensics, foreign language, etc. We looked at virtual and distance learning. We looked at evening classes, and also just enabling more students to move to the high school to take classes. And again, as Mrs. Eiselman talked about, that really presents some problems for ninth grade students to move to the high school due to block scheduling, travel time, and those concerns. If we stay in our current model, our students will be limited in some ways. I'll give an example in each of these. In athletics, our counterparts in 9-12 high schools have the opportunity to compete at the varsity level as a ninth grade athlete. If you are a girls soccer player at Frontier Trail, you can play varsity soccer at Olathe South or Olathe East. We had a girl last year start for Olathe South state championship team. She was seen by college recruiters, was able to bond with those high school students and have a chance to compete for a state title. We also had a girls basketball player that was equally as talented, but she stayed at Frontier Trail and played on the Frontier Trail basketball team, and then was able to just play 4 games at the varsity level when the season ended. In activities, I think we're missing the boat with our theater kids. They're not being able to, while we have great junior high theater programs, they're not involved in those larger productions and many more opportunities at the high school. Vertical alignment, vertical teaming, consistency within the high school curriculum. Prime example in science, I talked to Phil Clark today at Olathe South. They have 4 teachers teaching biology, which is a very common science class taken by 10th grade students. Common 9th grade class is physical science. At Frontier Trail, we have 7 teachers teaching physical science. That consistency and that vertical teaming is not happening at the high school level with the 9th graders not being in the same building. Accelerated classes, again, those are concerns due to the aforementioned constraints. And quite frankly, with this great math program that we've implemented, it's going to be a problem in 2 years. When all these 7th graders taking algebra across the district, where are they going to take advanced algebra trig as 9th graders? It's definitely a concern that we're going to have to deal with. This recommendation has been made carefully after analyzing and prioritizing the needs of students and how to best serve them. As adults, we have a hard time with change, but the children, who are the ones that are going to benefit from this potential change, have little concern. I'll turn it back over to Larry to talk about activities at the middle level.
One of the questions posed in the community with the focus groups was, what about activities for the middle level? Will we lose our flavor of junior high? The Olathe School District, I have found, and this is my second school district, has been extremely committed to an activities program that's high in quality and competitive in both the junior high and senior high. At our focus group discussions, it was made very clear by the community that with a 6th through 8th grade configuration, our activities program must remain a high priority. By moving our 6th grade students to the junior high, this activities program will become stronger. Earlier access to daily drama programs, orchestra, band, and vocal music programs will give a jump start to the future success in these areas. Providing more access to community service organizations such as CAES will increase the likelihood of students becoming more connected to their school and community at large. Community service, I really cannot underestimate. I've seen such growth in many students, at-risk students, as well as middle and high-level students in their self-esteem and their connection. And a sense of belonging is extremely important at this level, and community service organizations really help serve that, and we're reaching more and more kids each day. It also helps to have leadership activities and education in the junior high, which will also be provided for 6th graders, 7th graders, and 8th graders. And that also helps with their student portfolios for future high school and college applications and resumes. Co-curricular activities such as cheerleading and drill team will be maintained and flourish with earlier opportunities for 7th and 8th graders. As stated previously, our music, art, and drama programs will become stronger due to earlier access and development. This move will strengthen our high school programs, thus giving our high school students a greater edge for their future. Continued activities help make our junior highs a vibrant, stimulating, and exciting and healthy learning environment for middle-level students, addressing the well-rounded teen socially, emotionally, physically, and academically. It is our commitment in our school district to make sure that happens with the change. And some of the concerns that we wanted to address was mixing 6th and 8th graders in the junior high school. And well, we've been working with teenagers or adolescents for many years. I believe between the junior highs and the senior high principals alone and the teachers, we've been raising thousands of adolescents. And I can speak to that. And I think we really understand the developmental stages that they go through and their needs. And putting the 6th and 8th graders, 6th, 7th, and 8th graders together actually makes more sense than the 7th through 9th, as far as the emotional gap. And I believe that we'll have programs. We are ready to help with a smooth transition for those 6th graders coming to the junior high. And back to Jim.
Concern was brought up about athletics at the junior high, and will we lose that? The answer to that is no, to be frank. Quite frankly, we'll be providing more opportunities for students at a younger age, opening up athletics to 7th graders, and also to 6th grade students via track or intramurals or other programs. The feedback from the community was overwhelming, whether it was the 90 bond task force members or the community members who were involved in the different discussion groups. Athletics and activities are a must in our junior highs. And when I first was asked to be on this committee, I told Dr. Banikowski I'm not going to be on a committee to recommend getting rid of junior high football in this community. That's not a committee I want to be on, and I was assured early on that wasn't the purpose. Athletics and activities are very important at the middle level, and we as educators see the importance of that on a daily basis. I believe this move would only enhance the opportunities for more students in the junior high. Earlier access, which students in our competing and surrounding districts have, is key to enable our students to have the best complete educational possible. The last topic that we'd like to discuss is high school size, because that's been brought up. And I tell you, in researching optimal high school size, you can find what you're looking for, just depending on which side of the fence you reside. There's research that shows smaller high schools being more beneficial, and there's research showing larger high schools being more beneficial. With a potential move of our 9th graders to our high school, we'd be in line enrollment-wise with many of our benchmark districts that we've looked at throughout the process, including Shawnee Mission, Cherry Creek, Colorado, Blue Valley, Millard, Nebraska, and Bellevue, Washington. Much research indicates high schools of 600 to 900 are the optimal size, with a current enrollment of 1,300 to 1,600 in our high schools. We're not close to that study at this point in time. Other research shows that schools under 1,000 students do not achieve academically as well as their larger counterparts due to a lack of resources, staffing, advanced courses offered, and funding. The high school principals, whom we're blessed with in this community, have leaders viewed throughout the state as top instructional leaders, will work to implement transition plans which enhance 9th grade learning. Smaller learning communities, mentor programs, student leadership programs, and the promotion of 9th grade successes are a few strategies which will ensure 9th grade success in our high school buildings. Don't we have the same concerns now with our 10th grade students going to the high school and our 7th grade students going to the junior highs? Those same concerns can be alleviated through proper leadership and implementation. We're not proposing a voyage into uncharted waters. This is done in each fall in every district in this state but 2. Having both taught and served as an assistant principal in a 912 building with 2,100 students, I understand the reservations. I can also say, based on personal experience, that 9th graders can flourish in the high school setting. They do get more opportunities in academics, performing arts, and athletics. In closing, I want to thank you for doing what's best for the children of Olathe and my own as well. Thank you.
And I want to thank the school board, and now I get to introduce Diane Steele.
Thank you, gentlemen.
Good evening.
Good evening.
And just hang on a little bit longer because I'm near the end. I am Diane Steele, a retired teacher of the Olathe School District, and I am currently one of the co-facilitators for the Senior Serving Schools program in Olathe. So I guess that would make me a voice of the senior citizens of Olathe. My husband, Brian, and I have 2 daughters who graduated from Olathe High School. We have 1 daughter and 1 granddaughter who graduated from Olathe North High School. And we currently have 4 grandchildren enrolled in the Olathe School District, 1 at Rolling Ridge, 1 at Oregon Trail, and 2 at Olathe North. We have been residents of Olathe for 43 years. 36 of those I taught in the Olathe district. So we have seen lots of changes in the community and in the school district over those years. Now, while I was sitting there, I thought, should I do this or not? But I'm going to because I'm a grandmother and a senior citizen. And you know how we are, we take advantage. I want to go back to the issue of sixth graders in the pre-algebra course, because I had a grandson at Rolling Ridge who was one of those. These kids had to begin their academic day at 7 in the morning to take advantage of this. So keep that in mind when you're thinking about what we ask these kids to do now under the present circumstances. And now I'll move to the real questions I'm supposed to address. One is, and the first one is, why do so many of our older schools need major investments? Well, the population in original town, Olathe, is growing because of affordable housing and the desire for people to have their children in an excellent and safe school system. The student population in these older buildings now is beginning to grow, not decline. I began teaching in Olathe in 1964 at Fairview, which was a state-of-the-art building. Since that time, however, specialized programs have been added to meet the individual needs of students today. And some examples of these programs are schools serving English language learners need space to teach these children English and other course content. 10 schools in our district are Title I schools, and most of them are in the core of Olathe. Math and reading programs are provided at these schools where the school population has a higher percentage of students living in poverty, which qualifies them for free and reduced lunches, thus qualifying the school for federally funded Title I programs. And each of these programs needs classroom space. An additional 4 schools that are not Title I schools, but who do serve a high percentage of students living in poverty, provide remedial reading, again, requiring classroom space. All schools now have computer labs, and I guarantee you in 1964, that was not a glimmer in anyone's eye. Federally mandated programs also increase the need for classroom space in the area of special education. If services such as occupational, physical, or music therapy are listed on a student's individual education plan, the school has to provide space for these programs. Another little personal aside, I did a long-term sub in the district at Northview, and I was math, Title I math, and you really need their attention. I shared the room with physical therapy, occupational therapy, and they, in 1/3 of this room, they were doing all kinds of fun activities, catching balls, crawling on the floor, playing with toys, and we were working on math. In the other third of the room was the Quest program. So these children were doing those activities. And that does present a problem. Some special education programs for low incidence population of students with disabilities are needed in a few elementary schools to maximize efficiency, such as a life skills program or the deaf and hard of hearing program. But in order to minimize the number of buildings used, these programs need to be located within various geographic areas. Space is also needed for resource rooms for students with various learning problems. And all Title I schools now have full-day kindergarten programs funded by the district. And that brings us to the next question. How does full-day kindergarten fit into these findings? Well, The Bond Task Force did some investigation into the topic of full-day kindergarten. But as we went through the process, that didn't end up being a focus of the group. That's not really a bond funding issue. But you're not off the hook yet, because it's really an operational budget issue. And that option would be a board decision. We have included, however, in your board notebook, much of the available research on full-day kindergarten so that you can refer to it. The next question I'm going to address is, what would that money spent on older buildings do to improve academics? There has been much research conducted which does support that a conducive learning environment increases academic achievement. Now, you can imagine how you would feel if you had your children or grandchildren placed in a classroom in a basement, like many of the students at Central School. Well, not many, but there's one classroom of students over at Central School in a basement classroom. I have had personal experience with that classroom also, because I subbed over there a couple of years ago. And I want to tell you, as I was led down the basement stairs to that classroom, I was actually horrified because it was very dark getting to the classroom. Now, once we got there, it was well lit, but it was isolated from the rest of the building. There are no restrooms down there, and it's not handicapped accessible. At that same time, there was an art class next door, but they didn't even have an enclosed classroom space. There were just tables and some shelves set up in the open basement, and it was very dimly lit. And I really wouldn't have wanted one of my grandchildren placed down there. Now, I just learned last week, actually, that has been moved, that art classroom has been moved out of the basement. But now they have art on a cart, which is less than desirable. I also know that concerning the 5th grade classroom that's down there, Dr. All and the staff at Central are scrambling madly to move that classroom upstairs. But again, that's a short-term solution for that problem, and it really needs to be a long-term solution. One of the wonderful things that I learned about the patrons of the Olathe School District by serving on this bond task force and attending parent focus groups is that an overriding concern of the parents of this district is equity. It doesn't matter where their children go to school, whether it's one of the brand new schools like Manchester Park or Central, the oldest elementary building. And placing children in basements, in hallways, in closets is not equitable. And it doesn't fit with the image that the Olathe district has of providing the best learning environment for our students. I want to thank you very much for your willingness to undertake this massive project, for listening to us, and we know you will do the best for our students. And now I'd like to call Mr. Tom Demo back to the microphone.
Thank you, Ms. Steele.
Thanks, Diane. I'd like to ask the Technology Bond Task Force to stand up. Who's all here tonight? First of all, you have an incredible technology group here at Olathe, and I was proud to serve on this group. And the second thing I learned, if you need advice on your home networking, this is also the group to lean on. So I'm here to address a few questions in technology. the Olathe School District has a reputation. The first question is, we already have a reputation for great technology in our schools, so why do we need more? And I think one of the points that has come up so well tonight is equity. We want each classroom and each student to have the same access. Another part to that is every year more and more of our curriculum and information is digital, which requires more access. So more of the learning tools that we use in the classroom today come in a digital format. Second question was, how does technology contribute to academic achievement? Statistics have shown for some time that technology leads to interactive, engaged learners. An engaged learner that is excited to participate and is hands-on, involved in the learning activity is known to retain the information or skill they are learning. Secondly, technology provides applications for challenged learners that have been proven to accelerate their academic skills, such as Reading 180 to assist students reading below grade level. The third question is, why do we need a technology support center? Couldn't it be housed in an existing space, for example, in the basement of a school? The first response was, we'll take it, but, build one. So less than desirable. So currently the technology department is located in 3 buildings. Space in all 3 facilities is very limited. None of the facilities are appropriately designed to house the large amount of hardware required to run one of the largest networks in the Kansas City metro area. So you really are one of the fastest growing and largest businesses in the Kansas City area, but yet your facilities are not built to support that. Second, as the district continues to grow, we will continue to become more dependent on technology, and I think everybody realizes that in their everyday life. We're more dependent on it now than ever. So reliable, redundant systems must be in place to manage the business of the district and the academic access students and staff rely on and expect. And third, as I said before, there is no basement or empty space in any building that could house even a portion of the equipment and staff. In addition, training facilities are needed in the district. So this concludes the formal presentation of the Bond Task Force, and we believe it prepares the students for the future and the district for the future as well. And now I'd like to turn it back over to Kathleen.
Thank you, Mr. Demo. Kathleen, before we go to questions, I think we'll take a comfort break
You bet.
for the benefit of everyone in the room.
Let's do that. That sounds like a plan.
So we'll plan for a 10-minute short recess for a comfort break.